Howdy, AP PreCal. It's Miss Kosh. I am continuing on Miss Vicki Carter's notes on Trig Identities and such. So the second video, go back and find this first one. I called these right here, like, we do a whole lot with just regular identities first, and then I get into what I don't know why I call it that, but I do, but the advanced identities, and those include the sum and difference and the double. The interesting thing is that there are also sum and difference for tangent and double for tangent, but apparently AP doesn't require you to know them. So that's very interesting. I'll have to decide if I take it out of all my notes and practice and all that kind of stuff. But what I like to do actually is I write them slightly differently. And okay, so if I have sine of an angle plus an angle, and we can use alpha and beta, that's great. Alpha plus or minus beta. This one, what I remember is it's sine, cosine, cosine, sine, and I went alpha, beta, and then it's the same SIGN. And my kids were looking at me today and like, why are you spelling that? Because SINE and SIGN sound the same, and they have the same SIGN, the same sign right here. So if this is a plus, we have a plus. If this is a minus, we have a minus. So I remember the sign, sum and difference, is sine, cosine, cosine, sine, with the same SIGN. So that's a nice little way to help you remember that. The cosine one, alpha plus or minus beta, it's cosine, cosine, sine, sine. So cosine, cosine, sine, sine with the opposite SIGN. So if it's plus here, it becomes a minus there. So I don't know if you've seen this before, but we have a minus plus that we will write in that because this allows us, she had written 4 equations, but if you write it this way, you only have to memorize 2. Now, the interesting thing, too, is I have never required my students to have these memorized, but AP doesn't give you any formulas. So if you need to use this, you need to know it. So let's just work on memorizing it. I would write it every single time you do a problem that requires you to do the sum or difference. So write out the formula, so the more you write it out, the better. But it's sine, cosine, cosine, sine with the same sign for sine. That was a whole lot of signs. And then with cosine, it's cosine, cosine, sine, sine with the opposite SIGN. Okay. Now let's see. Okay, so on this one, she's telling you how to find cosine of 13 pi over 12 in a particular way. I don't always tell people how to break it apart, but the cool thing is it'll work out no matter how you break this apart. So I could say, on this one, you'll notice, well, okay, here's how I would think through this. If I have 13 pi over 12, I want to write this as numbers on the unit circle that add or subtract to give me that. Okay, so we could say 13 is what? 9 pi over 12 plus 4 pi over 12? Do those both happen on the unit circle? This becomes 3 pi over 4, which is this one. This becomes that one. Okay, so that's the one she gave us. Well, let's see. What else? I could do 8 pi over 12 plus 5 pi over 12. 8 pi over 12 is on the unit circle, but 5 pi over 12 is not. I could do 6 and 7. That's not going to necessarily work very well. What else could I do? I could do 6 and 7, yeah. I could do, well, I already have 4 and 9. I could have 3 and 10. That could work. If I have 3 pi over 12 plus 10 pi over 12, that reduces to pi over 4, and then 5 pi over 6. Those are both unit circle friendly. I can also do subtraction. And so if I did 15 pi over 12 minus 2 pi over 12, that's not a 12. Then this becomes 15 pi over 12, 3 goes in there, 5 pi over 4, 2 over 12 is 2 pi over 12 is pi over 6. Okay, so in my IB class today, we were covering this very thing, and so I numbered them off 1 to 3. It wasn't exactly this problem, but it was this basic idea. And I had a third of my kids do this problem on the board, and I had a third of my kids do this problem on the board, and I had a third of my kids do that problem on the board, and some of them didn't match. And they discovered that they lost a negative. So any one of these, it'll work out differently, but it all gets you to the same answer. So like I always say, you have to do good math to a good answer. Yeah. In my opinion, if I wrote the problem, I wouldn't tell you this part. I would expect you to be able to break this down. Okay, so now let's actually do the problem, and we'll do it her way, and then you can go ahead and try the other two and just verify that that's really true. Okay, so this is cosine So we can write this as cosine of 13 pi over 12 is equal to cosine of pi over 3, we need parentheses, plus 3 pi over 4. And then cosine, I really should find another piece of paper. I don't like writing across the page personally, but there's not a ton of space. Okay, so this is cosine, opposite SIGN, sine, okay? And then now I just have to know my unit circle. So cosine of pi over 3 we went out a little and up a lot, so cosine is out. So that's 1/2. Cosine of 3 pi over 4, this is in quadrant 2. I'm thinking out loud, but I expect you to know the unit circle. The pi over 4 family is always root 2 over 2. In quadrant 2, that was a negative. Okay, sine, we went up a lot, that's root 3 over 2. Sine of this is going to still be positive, it's root 2 over 2. And so you get negative root 2 minus root 6, all with a denominator of 4. And that's how I personally would write that problem. I have not yet done enough AP Classroom problems to know if they would, I mean, there's nothing wrong with saying this or switching the order. Okay, go try the other 2 versions just to get a little extra practice and verify. Okay, so let's see the next one. There was one like this on some of the practice I was doing today, and it almost caught me, but it didn't. Okay, this is cosine, sine, and so cosine is the opposite SIGN, so we can put this together. This is cosine of 5 pi over 18 minus pi over 9, which pi over 9 is 2 pi over 18. So we have 5 minus 2 is 3. So this becomes cosine of 3 pi over 18. We don't know that on our unit circle, but we can reduce our fractions. And we have cosine of pi over 6, assuming I know how to do math. And cosine of pi over 6, we went out a lot and up a little. This is root 3 over 2. Cool. Okay, come back for, I'll do this next. I'll do a video here for double, and then I'll do a video for her solving trig equations. Yeah, come back and see me. Subscribe. See you later.